Chapter 21, Kai Vu Village, Phuoc Ngac 2. Phuoc Ngac 2. This was a rather peculiar ancestral shrine. It stood deep within the forest, about 2 kilometers away from the village. The forest itself was vast, part of Kai Vu village's natural scenery. Over many years, the villagers had carved winding trails through the woods and carefully set up guideposts, ensuring that tourists could explore without getting lost, or meeting danger. They followed the eastern trail. 2 kilometers wasn't far. It took roughly 20 minutes. Along the way, Eric Church stayed on high alert, constantly scanning the surroundings, afraid that the headless shadow might appear again. Fortunately, nothing happened. They reached Phuoc Ngac 2 without incident. The bright sunlight eased some of the tension in their hearts. The shrine was exquisitely built. Even from a distance, it exuded an air of solemnity and stillness. Beside it ran a narrow ditch. It wasn't the rainy season yet. The water level was low, jagged stones jutted out, and several wooden stakes, washed loose by past rains, lay scattered in the mud. The 3 of them stepped into the shrine courtyard. Only an old man was there, quietly sweeping the ground. Nearby stood a small room. It seemed to be where the old man lived. The temple was eerily quiet. Aside from the old man, there was no one else. "Sir!" Eric Church called out loudly. The old man didn't react. The 3 exchanged puzzled looks. When they walked closer, they realized the man was hard of hearing, only one ear worked, and they had to speak very close for him to hear. No wonder he's been left alone in a place like this. Eric Church sighed. They explained that they were here to visit the shrine. The old man was delighted and told them they could look around freely, as long as they didn't disturb anything inside. Alice Englert then asked whether anyone had come to the temple yesterday and said that 2 people had arrived in the evening, around 8 or 9 o'clock, but had left shortly after. Suddenly, Alice Englert changed the subject. "Sir," she asked, "do you know Niam Shuyan?" The old man frowned and leaned his good ear closer to her. "What boat?" Alice Englert raised her voice and spoke directly into his ear. "Niam Shuyan. Niam as in vast, Shuyan as in rivers and mountains." The moment he understood, the old man's expression changed drastically. He shook his head in panic. "No idea. I don't know, never heard of him. I don't know him." He stammered and repeated himself over and over, as if desperately trying to convince them, and himself, that he truly knew nothing about Niam Shuyan. Suddenly, Chris Hemsworth pulled out Niam Shuyan's spirit tablet from inside his clothes and held it out. "Sir, take a closer look. Do you really not know him?" The instant the old man saw the tablet, terror flooded his clouded eyes. He screamed, as if struck by something unseen, threw down his broom, and bolted. As he ran, he muttered incoherently. "It wasn't me, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. I don't know anything, don't come looking for me." He fled toward the ditch, tripped over weeds, and fell in. He didn't move again. A sense of dread washed over the 3 of them. They rushed to the ditch to check. And the moment they looked down, they froze. The old man lay sprawled across a wooden stake. Thick splinters had pierced through his chest and the back of his neck. Fresh blood flowed out, trickling along the dry channel. His empty eyes were still wide open, fear frozen within them, staring straight at the 3 people standing above the ditch. Eric Church staggered back half a step. "Damn it. He's dead." The other 2 looked no better. He clearly knew something. Alice Englert said grimly. But for some reason, he was too afraid to say it. "Chris, what do you think?" She noticed that Chris Hemsworth was staring at the corpse in silence, deep in thought. Then he shook his head. "I'm thinking about the dining hall." Alice Englert frowned. "The dining hall? What about it?" Chris Hemsworth lowered his voice. "Didn't you notice that its layout was a little strange?" The other 2 nodded. Eric Church scratched his head. It is strange, but maybe that's just how village dining halls are designed. Chris Hemsworth stared straight into their eyes and asked a question that sent chills down their spines. What if the current dining hall was originally the guest house meant to host outside tourists? Eric Church froze, then sucked in a sharp breath. Damn, when you put it that way, brother, it really does seem possible. Alice Englert's eyes lit up. Not just possible. It's exactly that. That dining hall has 3 floors. Aside from the central area where you get food, every space is a small room, just big enough for one person. I found it strange before, but I didn't think in that direction. Now, all the clues seem to be linking together. She patted Chris Hemsworth on the shoulder approvingly. Well done, Chris. It's been a long time since I've met a man as perceptive as you. Chris Hemsworth was left momentarily speechless by her half-joking tone. Wait a second. Was she praising him, or mocking him? So, Eric Church said slowly, as realization dawned on him. The original guest house was converted into a dining hall, and the villagers turned another large, long-abandoned house into the current guest house. Chris Hemsworth nodded. That's right. But, why would they do that? I don't know, Chris Hemsworth replied. But that large house isn't clean. Which means they definitely don't have good intentions toward us. As they spoke, the 3 passed through several doors and entered the inner hall of the shrine. Stood a painting, alongside a small bust and an explanatory plaque. The bust was made of pure gold. Though only palm-sized, its value was undeniable. For a remote village like Kai Vu, this was no small expense. Alice Englert toyed with the golden statue for a moment, then carefully placed it back. All 3 then focused their attention on the painting. The background depicted Kai Vu village. But it was clearly from a much earlier time, perhaps decades, or even centuries ago. The painting showed a man holding a sickle, stepping on another person's back. 3 people were bound and kneeling on the ground. A middle-aged man, a woman, and a child. Behind the man with the sickle stood a crowd, villagers, judging by their appearance. Their faces were twisted with agitation and rage, arms raised, mouths open, as if shouting in unison, as though responding to some grim call. What is this? Eric Church frowned. A rebellion? Alice Englert stepped closer, her slender fingers lightly tracing the painting's surface. A trace of suspicion appeared in her eyes. Something's not right. Look carefully at the background. The other 2 followed her gaze, and soon noticed something deeply unsettling. The sun is blazing, the trees are withered, the stream is dry. This is a drought. Eric Church exclaimed. Chris Hemsworth seemed to realize something. He murmured softly, almost to himself. Good people bleed out their life, becoming the rain that ends a long drought. Chapter 22, Kai Vu Village, the Annotation. In that instant, a chill ran straight down Chris Hemsworth's spine. He had a vague but dreadful feeling that during the great drought of that year, something truly horrifying had happened in this village. While Chris Hemsworth and Alice Englert were carefully studying the portrait, Eric Church moved aside and began reading the annotation beneath it. So it really was a drought. Hey, both of you, come take a look at this. It seemed Eric Church had discovered something. His expression changed as he called out to them. They hurried over, and the moment they saw what he was pointing at, both of them froze. A new name had appeared there. Niam too. Same surname. Niam. Could he be related to Niam Shuyan? Chris Hemsworth's eyes lit up as he quickly read through the annotation. The contents were roughly as follows. More than 120 years ago, Kai Vu village suffered through 3 consecutive years of drought. Streams ran dry. Not only did crops fail completely, even the vegetation in the surrounding mountains withered away. At the time, the village's only water source was an ancient well dug by their ancestors. After the drought came famine. As more and more villagers starved to death, they went to the home of Ngac, the only wealthy landowner in the village at the time, to beg for some of his stored grain. But those who went, never returned. Sensing something was wrong, other villagers secretly went to Ngac's house. What they discovered shocked them to the core. Ngac had killed those who came asking for food, butchered their bodies, and fed them to his dogs. When the truth was exposed, the entire village erupted in rage. Led by a middle-aged man named Ngac, the villagers stormed Ngac's home, killed him on the spot, and imprisoned his wife and child inside. Had been built by Ngac using wealth extracted from the entire village, under the pretense of constructing a rain-praying shrine where offerings were made each year to beg for favorable weather. In reality, it was nothing more than a tool for Ngac to hoard wealth. Strangely enough, on the very night Ngac was killed, a torrential rain fell. Yanvu Temple was struck by lightning and burst into flames. Some claimed that despite the heavy rain, the fire did not go out, instead, it burned even more fiercely. Ngac's wife and child were burned to death inside the temple. The villagers all said that heaven had finally opened its eyes, and evil had been punished. In the end, under Phuong's leadership, the village gradually returned to stability. To commemorate Phuong's contributions to Kai Vu village, later generations cast a small golden statue of him and built this ancestral shrine. That was the entirety of the annotation. So the man holding the sickle in the painting is Ngac. And the ones tied on the ground, were Ngac and his wife and child. Then, Chris Hemsworth immediately pulled out the spirit tablet he was holding. Staring at the two characters engraved on it, Ngac, he spoke with barely contained excitement. Ngac, could he be the son of Ngac who was burned alive? Alice Englert nodded. That's very likely. As she spoke, she suddenly noticed something. She let out a soft sound of surprise, stepped closer to the annotation, examined it carefully, then pulled out a small flashlight. Her voice grew noticeably more serious. There's something behind this annotation. Chris Hemsworth and Eric Church immediately leaned in. What is it? Alice Englert's eyes gleamed. I can't be sure, but there's a large hollow space behind the wall where this plaque is mounted. You two, step back. She intended to do, Eric Church widened his eyes and tried to stop her. Sister Alice, don't mess around. Didn't the old man sweeping earlier say we weren't allowed to touch anything in the shrine? Alice Englert replied calmly. Relax. I know exactly what I'm doing. Seeing how firm she was, the two men retreated a few steps. Without hesitation, Alice Englert pulled several coins from her pocket, selected one, and skillfully twisted it against the square frame of the annotation. The screws loosened and came free. Whoa, coins can do that? Eric Church stared in disbelief. Once the screws were removed, Alice Englert carefully lifted the plaque away. And sure enough, a large cavity was revealed in the wall behind it. What lay inside made all three of them go rigid. Inside that cramped hollow, were two horribly deformed corpses. The cavity was only about 50 centimeters on each side. It was impossible to imagine how two adult human bodies could have been stuffed inside such a confined space. Their faces were frozen in extreme terror, as though they had seen something unspeakable before death. Twisted together, their pale, lifeless eyes stared outward from the darkness of the hole. Is it, them? Chris Hemsworth blurted out. The other two turned to him. You recognize them? Eric Church asked. Chris Hemsworth nodded. Do you remember what the old man sweeping said earlier? That last night, around 8 or 9, 2 tourists came here. When we first entered the Blood Gate yesterday and gathered in the open ground, I didn't clearly see everyone's faces, but I remember their clothes. Those two were like us. They were outsiders, people from beyond the Blood Gate. This morning, I wondered why there was clearly only one body in the open ground, yet we were missing 3 people. Now it makes sense. The other 2 missing people are here. Eric Church swallowed hard. Then tell me. What the hell did this to them? No one answered. In theory, no human could have done this. At the very least, no human could have twisted two bodies like noodles and forced them into such a small space, without leaving a single trace of blood. So then, what did? Just as the three stood there in silence, a voice rose from behind them, making their scalps prickle instantly. I already told you. Don't touch anything inside the ancestral shrine. You. Why won't you listen? Chapter 23, Kai Vu Village, Conference. The moment that horrifying sound echoed, the souls of the three seemed to freeze solid. They slowly turned their heads and saw the old man who was supposed to be dead, standing right in front of them. This time, he was no longer holding a broom. Instead, he gripped a pair of sharp, gleaming scissors. Step by step, he advanced toward them. The smile on his face twisted into something grotesque and unnatural. The wrinkles on his face looked as though they were about to swallow his features whole, and the icy aura clinging to his body grew heavier with every breath. All three of them knew one thing with absolute certainty. The old man standing before them was no longer human. Realizing the danger, they tried to flee at once, only to discover that they couldn't move their legs at all. It felt as if molten lead had been poured into their limbs. Heavy. Paralyzing. Is this the power of a ghost? A deep chill crept into Chris Hemsworth's heart. They were far too weak. In front of a ghost, they had almost no ability to resist. As the old man closed in, scissors raised, Alice Englert suddenly spoke. Grandpa, we didn't mean to touch anything in the ancestral hall. But the things here. Niyum Shuyan really doesn't like them. He's the one who told us to come here. At the mention of the name Niyum Shuyan, the ferocious expression on the old man's face froze. In the next instant, raw, overwhelming terror surfaced in his dead fish eyes. He shifted his gaze and stared straight at Alice Englert. What, did you say? Cold sweat soaked Alice Englert's palms, yet her expression remained calm. If you don't believe me, she continued steadily. We can show you something. The moment her words fell, Chris Hemsworth sensed the change in the old man's aura. Without hesitation, he took out Niyum Shuyan's spirit tablet. The instant the old man saw it, it was as if he had seen something utterly horrifying, dropped the scissors from his hand, turned around, and fled straight into the depths of the forest. Only after he disappeared did the three finally regain control of their bodies. Cold sweat drenched their backs as they gasped for breath. Eric Church looked at Alice Englert with clear admiration. Sister Alice, you're amazing. A few words, and you scared that old ghost away. Alice Englert exhaled slowly. I was just testing my luck. If that didn't work, I had another plan. She paused, then continued in a low voice. Judging from this, what's written in the notes of that painting probably doesn't match what really happened back then. Otherwise, that old man wouldn't have been so terrified of the spirit tablet in Chris's hand. Even ghosts are afraid of it. That tells you just how monstrous the resentment of its owner must be after death. Chris Hemsworth looked at the spirit tablet, a chill running down his spine. Still, he put it away and said, let's go. That ghost might come back at any moment. And it doesn't seem like there are any more useful clues here. After all the delays, noon had already arrived. They returned to the village's tourist rest area and went to the cafeteria to get food. Just as they finished, a slender woman in jeans approached them and said, do the three of you have time? Chris Hemsworth and Eric Church didn't answer. Alice Englert smiled gently. We do. What is it? The woman extended her hand. My name is Delphine. Would you like to join us for a meeting? Most of the other Blood Gate participants are already there. After a brief hesitation, Alice Englert nodded. All right. She followed Delphine to a larger room on the second floor, where 4 other Blood Gate participants were already seated. Chris Hemsworth swept his gaze across the room and frowned. Why are 3 people missing? The moment he asked, the faces of the 2 present turned extremely ugly. It was clear. Those 3 weren't coming back. What happened? Alice Englert asked softly. Could you share? Perhaps her beauty worked in her favor. After a moment of silence, one of them finally spoke. It's nothing. The 3 of them crossed the forest together and went to the temple on the mountain behind the village, looking for a way to survive. We warned them, but they insisted on going. They promised to come back within an hour, whether or not they found any clues. The mountain isn't tall, and the steps are neatly built. It takes less than 10 minutes to go up or down. But we waited nearly 3 hours at the foot of the mountain, and they never returned. We started to wonder whether something had happened to them up there. When we were debating whether to go up and rescue them or leave. At this point, the man's eyes bulged in terror, as if reliving a nightmare. He suddenly covered his mouth and began retching violently. The companion beside him appeared calmer, but his face was deathly pale. No one urged him to continue. They waited in silence. After the retching finally subsided, the man spoke again, his voice hoarse. Just as we were deciding what to do, something suddenly rolled down from the mountain. It nearly hit us. When it finally stopped in the clearing, we saw what it was. It was their bodies. The air in the room seemed to stop. Silence fell like a shroud. The man stared blankly into space, muttering. Exactly like the corpse outside the guest house this morning, exactly the same. Their heads were torn off. It was a ghost. It had to be a ghost. There's a ghost in that mountain. His companion slapped his face hard and shoved a bottle of cold water to his lips. After several gulps, the man finally calmed down, staring at the table without saying another word. After a long while, Delphine let out a sigh. Everyone can see the situation we're in now. This blood gate. I don't know what went wrong. It's clearly only the second gate, yet the difficulty is absurdly high. To be honest, I'm a veteran player who has cleared 5 blood gates. This time, I was assigned to guide newcomers. But this one is far too difficult. It's even harder than the 5th blood gate I passed. If we don't unite and cooperate, there's a very real chance that all of us will be wiped out here. The moment the words, wiped out, were spoken, the expressions of everyone present, except Chris Hemsworth, Alice Englert, and Eric Church, changed drastically. Chapter 24, Kai Vu Village, Assignments. Cooperation is fine, of course, Alice Englert said lazily. But how exactly do you want to cooperate? She crossed her legs, propped her chin on one hand, and blinked slowly at Delphine. Delphine clearly didn't like being stared at that way. She frowned slightly. Her instincts told her one thing very clearly. This Alice Englert was not a newcomer. And people who weren't newcomers were never easy to fool. Cooperation is actually quite simple, Delphine said. Our top priority right now is to find the exit of this blood gate within 6 days. Before entering, I believe everyone received the hints provided by the blood gate. But relying on those hints alone, it's impossible to leave this place alive. We need to gather more clues. And those clues are scattered across the various scenic locations in the village. As she spoke, Delphine swept her gaze over the silent group, her tone firm and unquestionable. I propose that we split into teams of 2 or 3. Each team will investigate a different scenic location. If nothing unexpected happens, we can collect all the clues within 1 or 2 days. This is the safest and fastest way to find the exit. The sooner we find it, the fewer people will die. After she finished, a timid girl among them asked hesitantly. Then, those scenic locations, do they have ghosts? Everyone turned to look. It was Irma, the girl who had been shoved toward Chris Hemsworth that morning. She was extremely timid. She had stayed in her room all day, only leaving the guest house to eat. Delphine replied coldly. This is the world behind a blood gate. What do you think? Irma's face instantly went pale. Then, can I not go? Her voice trembled, on the verge of tears. Delphine showed no sympathy. Of course you can. But if you choose not to go, then there's no reason for us to share the life-risking clues we obtain about the exit once. No. I'll go. I'll go. Though she was a newcomer, after surviving her first blood gate, she understood perfectly what exit clues meant. And what it meant to not have them. Inside a blood gate, everyone dies. Only by finding the exit can anyone survive. Seeing no objections, Delphine nodded in satisfaction. Since everyone agrees, then let's split up and start gathering clues. It gets dark here around 7 in the evening. Don't worry, just make sure you return to the guest house before midnight. If you do, the chances of encountering danger should be relatively low. In practice, those who already had partners stayed together, while the remaining 2 or 3 people automatically formed teams. There are 8 of us left, divided into 3 teams. We've already been to Phuong Thon Hall and obtained a clue there, so no one needs to go again. There are 4 scenic locations remaining. Discuss among yourselves, 1 team per location today. If anyone returns late, we'll meet again in the cafeteria tomorrow to exchange clues. As soon as she finished speaking, Alice Englert drawled lazily. We've also already visited a scenic location and obtained an important clue. Oh? Delphine asked. Where did you go? Phuoc Ngac 2. The moment Alice Englert said that, a strange glint flashed through Delphine's eyes. She then made an outrageous request. In that case, you should go to another important scenic location this afternoon to search for clues. Before her words had fully settled, Eric Church exploded, slamming his eyes wide. Why? Why don't you go? Delphine crossed her arms, her voice icy. You want to know why? Fine. First, my clue came from Phuong Thon Hall. That's the farthest location from the guest house. A round trip takes nearly 2 hours, which means the risk of accidents on the road is the highest. It's the most dangerous route. Second, we've already decided to go to Phuoc Ngac 2 this afternoon. I've taken the lead on the most dangerous tasks and I still have to help you check for anything you might have missed. Is it really too much to ask you to investigate 1 more scenic location? Eric Church was about to argue again, but Chris Hemsworth grabbed him. He signaled for Eric Church to stay quiet. Alice Englert smiled instead. Not excessive at all. Not in the slightest. Then it settled. After a brief discussion, Alice Englert decided that their group would go to Bat Hack Well that afternoon. It was a shallow well. During a great drought years ago, it had saved the entire village. It was also the farthest scenic location from the guest house, less than half a kilometer away from Phuong Thon Hall. After everyone dispersed, Eric Church finally vented his frustration. Why the hell did we agree to that? She calls it cooperation, but all she does is give orders. It's infuriating. Alice Englert replied calmly. Do you want to live, or do you want to die? Eric Church snapped back. Of course I want to live. Then stop talking nonsense, Alice Englert said. Follow me. Eric Church gaped at her. No, are you too useless or what? Being afraid of ghosts is one thing, but being afraid of people too. Before he could finish, Chris Hemsworth cut him off. Delphine lied. Eric Church froze. What? Lied? Bro, how did you tell? Chris Hemsworth's gaze sharpened. Keep track of the time. Once we reach Bat Hack Well, you'll understand. Eric Church stared at his watch. Suddenly, realization struck. Wait, you mean, Delphine never went to Phuong Thon as well? Think about it. Where would she get the time? That round trip alone takes nearly 2 hours, and that's without any emergencies. We spent the entire morning just reaching Phuoc Ngac Tuesday. Do you think Delphine went to Phuong Thon Hall last night? If not, she wouldn't have had the time. After all, we saw her outside the guest house this morning when we went to breakfast, after 8. Eric Church finally understood completely. The woman named Delphine had deceived everyone. She was trying to use them. Damn it, she dared to manipulate us. He cursed furiously. I'm afraid it's not that simple, Alice Englert said coldly. What she's lied about, and what she's hidden from us, may be far more than that. This woman has many problems. Her icy tone sent a chill through the two men beside her. Eric Church swallowed hard. Sister Alice, what else did you notice? Alice Englert shook her head and smiled faintly. If I told you that the people who died at Phuoc Ngac 2, and the 3 who went up the mountain behind the village, were very likely acting under her guidance. Eric Church's pupils shrank in shock. Holy hell. That vicious bitch. But why? Chapter 25, Kai Vu Village, Bat Hack Well. For now, her motive is still unclear. Alice Englert glanced at Chris Hemsworth. He lowered his head, silent, as if weighed down by something heavy. No matter what, we still have to rely on ourselves to gather clues. There's still enough time. We should go to the farthest location first, so the next few days won't be too pressured. The 3 followed the wooden signposts through the dense forest and arrived at Bat Hack Well. The well lay hidden among lush bamboo groves. Its mouth was coated in thick green moss, weeds choking the surrounding ground. Aside from a single wooden plaque beside it, there was nothing else. It looked like no one had come here for a very long time. The plaque described the well's long history, once again mentioning the events of the Great Drought. Nguyen Kai Hong. Niam 2. These villagers really know how to be grateful. Eric Church remarked, stepping closer and peering down into the well. Chris Hemsworth and Alice Englert stood before the wooden plaque, studying it for a long time. Any thoughts? Alice Englert asked. She paid close attention to Chris Hemsworth, this newcomer. His mental composure, even among those who had passed through 4 or 5 blood gates, would be considered top tier. I have a bad feeling. Chris Hemsworth said gravely. Do you remember what Ho Kong told us the first time we met him? That if we ran into something strange, we could seek out the spirit medium Nguyen in the village. Alice Englert pondered. You mean Nguyen? Chris Hemsworth nodded. Yes. Same surname. That spirit medium Nguyen is very likely a descendant of Nguyen Kai Hong. What really happened in this village back then was definitely not as simple as what's written here. The villagers must have hidden from the blood gate, the kind-hearted bleed dry, turning into sweet rain. Just hypothetically, what if Niam 2, the man who was dismembered, was actually a good person? He was about to continue. But suddenly his expression changed. He spun around and rushed to the well, grabbing Eric Church, who was about to climb inside. Eric Church, are you insane? Chris Hemsworth shouted. But Eric Church seemed deaf to him. His eyes were vacant. His hands clutched the edge of the well as he forced himself forward, muttering over and over. I'm so thirsty, I'm so thirsty. Just one sip, just one sip. Chris Hemsworth wasn't weak, years of intense training had given him exceptional strength. Even so, he could only slow Eric Church's descent. He couldn't stop him. As Eric Church's upper body was about to slide into Bat Hack Well, Alice Englert's voice rang out sharply from behind. Christ, hold on a little longer. Got it. Chris Hemsworth clenched his teeth, almost using his own body like a rope, dragging back the frenzied man who was desperate to crawl into the well. But even that wasn't enough. He could feel it, if this continued, he would be dragged down as well. If it were anyone else, Chris Hemsworth would have let go already. But in the previous blood gate, when the red-robed female ghost had seized him on the third-floor corridor. It was Eric Church who had risked his life to save him. So he didn't let go. His face flushed crimson from strain, muscles stretched to their absolute limit, teeth grinding as he fought. Just as Eric Church was about to fall, Alice Englert finally pulled out an old, blood-stained bronze mirror. She rushed forward and aimed it straight into the well. "Aya!" A shrill, agonized scream erupted from the pitch-black depths. At the same time, Eric Church screamed. "Damn it! Bro, pull me up! Pull me up!" Freed from the invisible force restraining him, Chris Hemsworth strained Eric Church's waist and hurled the 72-kilogram man backward. Eric Church tumbled across the ground, rolling through fallen leaves before collapsing, gasping for breath, his face deathly pale. Seeing him safe, Alice Englert immediately put the mirror away. As she did, Chris Hemsworth caught a glimpse. The already worn bronze mirror now bore several fresh cracks. "Sorry," he said quietly. Alice Englert waved it off. "That's how it is in the Blood Gate. One careless step, and you're trapped. That's why, the deeper you go, the more people prefer traveling in pairs or trios. When something happens, someone can help in time." As she spoke, her eyes dimmed for just a moment. Then the darkness vanished. But Chris Hemsworth saw it. He knew she was thinking of her deceased close friend. In this fog-shrouded world, becoming close friends, or brothers, was often a bond forged between life and death. Losing someone like that was a devastating blow. Chris Hemsworth said nothing more. He turned to Eric Church, who lay on the ground, finally looking normal again, though his face was drained of all color, terror filling his eyes. "Beard face, what happened to you just now?" Eric Church slowly turned his head, cold sweat soaking his clothes. I looked into the well. At first it was just stagnant water, nothing unusual. But then, faces of dead people started surfacing in the water. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. Then they climbed up from the bottom, grabbed my hands, and dragged me inside. A cold wind rustled through the bamboo forest. All three felt chills crawl up their spines. But then, Eric Church's expression shifted. It was like something burned them. When I broke free, I saw a corpse holding something glowing in its hand, so I pulled it out. Both of them lit up. "What is it?" Eric Church opened his palm. A cracked wooden token lay there, tied away with his sleeve. On it was carved a single, large character Ngwin. "Ngwin. What's this supposed to be?" TCH thought it'd be something important. He looked disappointed. Alice Englert chuckled softly. "Oh, it is very important. Being able to obtain this basically confirms one of our earlier assumptions." Eric Church blinked. "What assumption?" Neither of them answered. "It seems that this spirit medium Ngwin really does have a serious problem," Chris Hemsworth said. Suddenly, his gaze snapped toward the depths of the bamboo forest. His expression changed. He lowered his voice sharply. "Quick! Someone's coming, hide!" Chapter 26, Kai Vu Village, Phuong Thon Hall. The three of them ran toward the opposite side, where large boulders stood among the bamboo forest, places they could use to hide. As the black silhouette in the distance slowly drew closer, they finally saw what it was. What was moving toward the Bat Hack well, was a headless person. "Damn it!" Eric Church cursed under his breath. His heart, which had just begun to calm, clenched tight again. Just how many filthy things were hidden in this village? Their first Blood Gate had been an underworld realm, but at least there had only been one ghost, and that ghost had basically killed only at night. Kai Vu Village was different. This place was truly crawling with ghosts, and they could attack in broad daylight without the slightest restraint. The three dared not breathe loudly. They watched as the headless figure walked straight to the mouth of the well, picked up the wooden bucket beside it, poured it down, and let the bucket drop. Then, it began to draw water. But when the headless corpse slowly hauled the bucket back up, what lay inside was not water, but a rotten skull. The body lifted the skull with both hands and placed it on its neck. The dead, fish-like eyes in the decayed skull rolled slightly. Yet in the next moment, the headless corpse removed the skull again, set it aside, and repeated the same motion as before. This bizarre scene continued for a full half-hour. Until the headless corpse seemed to sense something. It stopped drawing water, turned around, and walked back along the path it had come from, leaving behind 14 rotten skulls on the edge of the ancient well. Behind the large rock, Eric Church slowly stuck his head out and glanced over. Damn it, what the hell is it doing? Counting money or something? No one answered him. Chris Hemsworth leaned against the rock, his eyes unfocused, muttering softly. The compassionate one cuts off his head, granting something crucial. At that moment, Eric Church, still peeking out, suddenly screamed in terror. Shit! Look at those heads. Seeing that something was wrong with Eric Church, the other two followed his gaze toward the ancient well. The sight froze them from head to toe. The rotten skulls by the well had somehow turned around. They were staring straight at the spot where the three were hiding. Their dead, fish-like eyes glowed with a faint green light, and sinister smiles twisted across their faces. As if in the next second, those heads would fly over and devour them alive. It's so cold down here, come with us. Come with us. Together, come together with us. Never to be separated. The skulls spoke in unison, their emotionless voices seeping into the ears like a curse. Hey, should we? Just as Eric Church trembled and asked whether they should run, he realized that no one was beside him anymore. He turned his head and saw that Chris Hemsworth and Alice Englert had already fled more than 10 meters away. Damn it! Eric Church stood there, stunned. Then he ran after them. Hey! Wait for me. You run without saying a word. That's going too far. They ran several hundred meters before finally stopping when a raised platform appeared ahead. Eric Church braced his hands against a nearby tree, panting heavily. You two are really, too much. At least you could have said something. Chris Hemsworth glanced at him and shook his head. Hey Beard, be a bit smarter next time. In a situation like that, if you don't run, are you waiting to die? Thinking back on what had just happened, Eric Church couldn't help but shudder. But that headless corpse, what was it? Was it looking for its own head? It was wearing something like a kasaya. Even though it was stained with quite a bit of blood, it didn't carry as much evil aura as other ghosts. It felt like it was simply searching for its head. At the mention of the kasaya, both Alice and Eric recalled the compassionate one mentioned in the Blood Gates hint. Could it be that it's the compassionate one? Chris Hemsworth rubbed his chin. Most likely. It's just hard to say whether he cut off his own head, or someone else cut it for him. By the way, do you still have the wooden tag you took from the ghost in the well? Eric Church nodded, took out the wooden tag, and handed it to Chris Hemsworth. Sister Alice said this thing was valuable, so I kept it. Chris Hemsworth held the wooden tag carved with the character Nguyen, studied it carefully, then suddenly asked a baffling question. Tell me, do you think the Nguyen family were kind people, or compassionate ones? The two looked at each other. No one answered him. They had no answer. After staring at it for a while, Chris Hemsworth put the wooden tag away. This thing is bad luck. Beard, I'll keep it for you. Eric Church shrugged. Doesn't matter. If you want it, take it. After putting the tag away, the three looked around and confirmed their location using a wooden sign. So, we've reached Phuong Thon Hall. Eric Church murmured, his gaze drifting toward the raised platform in the distance. It was called a platform, but it wasn't actually very tall. Green stone was covered in creeping vines, intertwined with a kind of black algae spreading outward from the center of a pool, looking disturbingly like human hair. There were 9 stone steps leading up, with many thick, rusted chains hanging around the area. At the center of the platform was a square pool of water, roughly 4 square meters in size. "Hey, little bro, Alice, what do you think? Is there anything strange on Phuong Thon Hall up there?" Eric Church seemed to have calmed down after the earlier fright, no longer as terrified as before. Both of them shook their heads. "Be careful. This place feels very wrong." Alice Englert's voice grew serious, tension clearly visible on her face. Fine hairs rose along her back from the chill. Even though nothing unusual appeared around them, she felt something was off. In fact, from the moment she stepped into this place, a deep cold had crept over her body. She rarely felt like this. Damn it. While Chris Hemsworth and Alice Englert were searching around for any clues and finding none, Eric Church suddenly cried out. They turned to him and saw his expression had gone pale as he stared at the black algae on the ground, his eyes filled with shock and doubt. "Hey Beard, what is it?" Eric Church hesitated before speaking. "Just now. I thought the black algae on the ground were moving. Maybe I imagined it." Before he could finish his sentence, the three of them heard the sound of water bubbling up from Phuong Thon Hall atop the platform. As if it were boiling. Chapter 27, Kai Vu Village, Stripping the Bones. All three were instantly drawn to Phuong Thon Hall. The sound of water boiling violently continued to echo from within, as if something inside was about to crawl out. Their gazes locked onto the square stone basin atop the raised platform, hearts pounding wildly. "Fall back!" Alice Englert shouted in a low voice. The three slowly retreated, but in the very next moment, they felt the black algae beneath their feet begin to writhe softly, swiftly climbing up their legs and pinning them in place. "Damn it!" Eric Church's eyes went wide. He reached down to tear the black strands away, but they were terrifyingly strong. No matter how hard he struggled, they wouldn't budge, as though they had grown directly out of his body. Not far away, Alice Englert reached into her backpack, seemingly trying to take something out, but at that very instant, a horrifying, blood-red figure slowly rose upright from Phuong Thon Hall. The three looked up at the crimson silhouette, and the blood in their bodies seemed to freeze solid. It was clearly a woman's flayed skin, soaked in blood. The entire skin was covered in countless cuts, as if it had endured the torment of Ling Chi. And those strands of black algae on the ground, they were the hair of this woman's skin. Holy hell! At this moment, Eric Church could only force out those two words. Beyond that, he couldn't say anything more. All 36,000 pores on his body seemed to be leaking icy air. After the woman's skin emerged, the eyes hidden within the hollow sockets shifted slightly, then suddenly locked onto the three beneath the platform. Tap, tap, tap. The skin-covered feet stepped onto the ground, climbing the stone steps one by one. Fresh blood dripped down, staining the steps crimson. It slowly advanced toward Chris Hemsworth, the closest of the three, its eyes filled with terrifying resentment and boundless sorrow. Not long, yet it felt like an entire year had passed, every second in excruciating torment. At last, the woman's skin stopped in front of Chris Hemsworth. By now, all three of them were completely unable to move. Cold sweat drenched Alice Englert. She had a protective item, this female ghost couldn't kill her, but she was bound by the black hair and couldn't take anything out to save Chris Hemsworth. She could only watch helplessly as the woman's finger reached out and touched the center of Chris Hemsworth's brow. Ugh! Chris Hemsworth felt death closing in. A chill spread from his forehead throughout his entire body as he struggled madly. After the cold came pain, a terrifying, overwhelming agony. Chris Hemsworth felt as though his entire body was about to shatter, as if an invisible knife were slowly slicing through his skin and flesh, stripping his bones, tearing out his organs. At first, he could grit his teeth and endure it. But when the horrific pain spread through every part of him, Chris Hemsworth finally couldn't take it anymore and let out a miserable scream. That scream broke the binding of the female ghost's hair. His body tilted to the side. Something fell from his pocket onto the ground. Clack. The sound wasn't loud. But in the silent forest, it was piercingly clear. They heard it. The flayed-skin ghost heard it too. It was the spirit tablet belonging to Niam Shuyan. When her gaze fell upon the tablet, the female ghost paused. She withdrew her finger from Chris Hemsworth's brow, her hair stirred slightly, and wrapped the Niam Shuyan tablet from the ground into her hand. She stared at it for a long time, as if sinking into distant memories, completely motionless. Only then did Chris Hemsworth finally let out in the ghost's eyes. He seemed to understand something. Ignoring the tearing pain throughout his body, he shouted hoarsely at her. "I'm not from this village, I came to investigate the truth. That year of famine, what happened in the village? The Niam Tu family, how exactly did they die? You must know something, tell me." Faced with Chris Hemsworth's questions, the female ghost raised her head, yet her eyes still carried that terrifying chill and deathly silence. She stared fixedly at him. A long time passed. Then, the female ghost curled her lips into a horrifying smile and let out laughter that sounded like sobbing madness. "Bring her to me. Bring her, to see me." After repeating it several times, her body suddenly moved like a kite caught by the wind. She flew back up onto the platform and plunged into Phuong Thon Hall. On the ground, all the black algae retreated, returning to their original state. As if nothing had ever happened. Thud. Chris Hemsworth dropped to one knee, nearly collapsing, saved only because Alice Englert caught him in time. "Chris, are you all right?" Alice Englert asked anxiously. Both of these men were members of Ghost Lodge, and both showed great potential. She truly hoped they could survive. Chris Hemsworth panted heavily and waved his hand. His entire skeleton felt as though it were about to fall apart. He tried several times to stand, but failed each time. "I'll carry you." Eric Church didn't waste words. He stepped forward and hoisted Chris Hemsworth onto his back. "Bro, don't worry. I won't abandon you. From now on, I'm your legs. If you tell me to go east, I'll never go west." Chris Hemsworth gave a slight nod, his breathing gradually steadying. He pointed toward the raised platform. "Take me to see Phuong Thon Hall above," recalled what had just happened, stayed silent for a few seconds, then slowly set Chris Hemsworth down, clutching his calf and howling. "No good, bro. My leg hurts like hell, must be a cramp." The other two rolled their eyes at his performance. "Relax. If that female ghost wanted to kill us, we'd already be dead back there, at least you and me. She wants our help. That means she won't kill us for now. This is a good opportunity." Eric Church sighed, looking at Chris Hemsworth with a complicated expression. "No idea what sins I committed in my past life, to end up with a teammate as reckless as you." Though he muttered his complaints, he still carried Chris Hemsworth on his back, carefully stepping up the stone stairs toward the platform. Alice Englert followed closely behind. Once atop the platform, the three looked into Phuong Thon Hall, and froze. My God! The horrifying scene inside nearly made Eric Church's legs give out as he almost collapsed. Only after seeing what lay within did they finally understand the purpose of the iron chains surrounding the stone basin. Inside the hall, a woman's flayed skin was pierced through all four limbs by iron chains, fixed in place within the water, her face tilted upward. Her arms, legs, chest, abdomen, and cheeks were covered in countless cuts. Beneath the flayed skin, at the bottom of the hall, lay a complete adult human skeleton. This woman, when she was alive, had been bound inside Phuong Thon Hall and flayed alive, stripped of both skin and bones. Chapter 28, Kai Vu Village, Footprints. My God, what did she do to deserve such a brutal death? Eric Church's lips trembled uncontrollably. He seemed unable to imagine just how inhuman the torment had been that the female ghost before them had endured while she was still alive. Locked inside an icy cage, limbs pierced through, skin stripped away bit by bit, bones peeled bare. Just thinking about it sent a chill down his spine. Let's go. Chris Hemsworth seemed to have realized something. He told Eric Church to help him down from the platform. Once they were back on the ground, he patted Eric Church's shoulder, signaling him to put him down. After resting for a moment, he seemed to feel slightly better, barely able to walk on his own. You okay, bro? Eric Church still didn't feel reassured and asked suspiciously. Chris Hemsworth waved his hand weakly. I don't think I'm seriously injured. It's just, my whole body aches, like knives are cutting into my flesh and digging into my bones. Eric Church and Alice Englert exchanged a glance and instantly understood. What the female ghost had just done to Chris Hemsworth was exactly the same method the villagers had once used to kill her. If not for the spirit tablet of Ngac Shuyan accidentally falling out and drawing the ghost's attention, Chris Hemsworth would likely have. Judging by her reaction, that female ghost seemed to know Ngac Shuyan. Even someone as rough as Eric Church could sense the abnormal sorrow in the ghost's eyes when she held Ngac Shuyan's tablet. Alice Englert looked at him in mild surprise and teased. Didn't expect someone as coarse as you to have a perceptive moment. Eric Church snorted. I'm rough on the outside, sharp on the inside. Chris Hemsworth spoke calmly. It's more than just acquaintance. She must be related to Ngac Shuyan, either his wife, or his mother. Personally, I leaned toward the latter. Breath. So that means, during that drought year, something truly unspeakable happened in the village, things the villagers deliberately never recorded. But the female ghost in Phuong Thon Hall wants us to bring her to her. So who exactly is this her? Chris Hemsworth and Alice Englert looked at each other. Alice Englert nodded, then slowly shook her head. It's getting late. Let's head back first. Once night falls, the evil aura in this village becomes very strong. It's extremely dangerous at night. The other two agreed with her suggestion. Strictly speaking, it wasn't that late yet, but they would need at least an hour to return to the guest house from here. With many unanswered questions weighing on their minds, the three began the journey back. Fortunately, they didn't encounter anything strange in the forest this time. By the time they returned to the guest house, it was nearly dinner time. Chris Hemsworth and Eric Church went back to their room to tidy up briefly, then went to knock on Alice Englert's door to invite her to eat, but Alice Englert stood inside her room with a grave expression and didn't immediately follow them out. What's wrong, Alice? Seeing the unusual look on her face, Chris Hemsworth asked. Alice Englert let out a cold laugh. After we left this afternoon, someone came into my room. As she spoke, she took out the black flashlight from before and shone it onto the floor. On the otherwise empty floor, footprints appeared, messy, yet clearly belonging to two different people. The expressions of the other two changed instantly. This. Alice Englert's eyes flickered. This morning, Chris mentioned that last night there was a charred ghost in the room searching for something. I took note of it. This guest house definitely has problems, but we can't rule out the human factor. So after lunch, I sprinkled a layer of special powder on the floor of my room. She then followed the footprints along the corridor with the flashlight, eventually discovering. All three of their rooms had been broken into. Moreover, judging by the footprints, the intruder was the same person in every case. Shoe size 35. Very likely a woman. Alice Englert said, glancing at Chris Hemsworth. Looks like this is exactly why some unlucky guy got targeted by the charred ghost on his very first night. Chris Hemsworth said nothing, still lowering his head in thought. Eric Church couldn't hold it in any longer. He clenched his fists, fury erupting. Damn it! Which bastard is messing with us for no reason? If I catch them, I swear I'll. Alice Englert looked at the enraged Eric Church and said calmly. And what would you do? Kill her? Eric Church choked on his words. I must warn you, after passing the blood gate, you absolutely must not kill someone with your own hands. Why? Because anyone who dies after the blood gate will definitely turn into a ghost. Eric Church is breathing sternly. Those who kill themselves or are killed by ghosts become neutral entities. They don't affect the instance. But people who are killed by other people and then turn into ghosts, that's different. They often harbor extremely powerful resentment and will immediately seek revenge. They might even implicate others who passed through the blood gate. Seeing Alice Englert's serious expression, Eric Church swallowed hard. The malicious thoughts born of anger dissipated at once. But soon after, he still couldn't help protesting. Then what, are we just supposed to sit here and wait to die? Letting someone screw us over without fighting back, how is that acceptable? Alice Englert rolled her eyes and sighed. You really are hot-headed. You have to eat a meal one bite at a time, don't you? Eric Church seemed to realize how foolish his powerless rage looked. He scratched his head awkwardly. All right. I was too impulsive, sorry. At this moment, Chris Hemsworth, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. Looks like what I was worried about has come true. The other two turned to him. Eric Church frowned. Bro, what were you worried about? Chris Hemsworth didn't answer him immediately. Instead, he pointed at the footprints on the ground and said to Alice Englert. Even though I'm already 80 or 90% sure, I still want to confirm it. Alice, go take a look, these footprints, are they Delphine's? Alice Englert nodded and turned to leave. Not long after, she returned, her expression icy as she nodded at the two of them. It's her. Chapter 29, Kai Vu Village, Conspiracy. Upon hearing that the footprints belonged to Delphine, Eric Church's eyes widened. Damn it, her again. Alice Englert rolled her eyes. Hey, Beard, is that really so surprising? This afternoon everyone went out to look for clues. She was the only one who went closest to Phuoc Ngac too. Of course, she might not have gone anywhere at all. After all, nothing she says is trustworthy. Eric Church said angrily. I knew that woman was no good. Earlier she pretended to be holding meetings in her room, but in the end she was just ordering everyone around, using us as cannon fodder. And now, she wants to harm us too. Chris Hemsworth kept staring at the floor. Suddenly, he spoke. Alice, give me the flashlight. Alice Englert nodded and handed him the special flashlight used to reveal footprints. Chris Hemsworth turned it on and followed the tracks around the room. In the end, he stopped in front of the large wardrobe. He carefully examined it, then felt around inside. Finally, he found a wooden tag hidden in a broken corner of the cabinet, lodged in a narrow crack in the wood. The tag was tied with a red string, and carved into it was a character all three of them knew very well, Nguyen. When she saw the wooden tag, Alice Englert's eyes flashed. Eric Church seemed to realize something as well and said in shock. So last night, that charred ghost in your room was looking for this thing? Chris Hemsworth nodded. Most likely. This tag probably belongs exclusively to members of the Nguyen clan. At the very least, outsiders like us wouldn't be able to get it easily. For Delphine to obtain so many Nguyen clan tags, she must have met the spirit medium Nguyen in the village. Alice Englert frowned. So the spirit medium Nguyen is the one directing Delphine to do all of this? Yes. That's the worst-case scenario. We're tourists. There's no way we understand the ghosts in this village better than the spirit medium Nguyen does. If she wants to use them to kill us, it would be extremely hard to guard against. Eric Church didn't understand. But we have no grudge against the spirit medium Nguyen. Why would she do this? Chris Hemsworth was silent for a moment. My guess is, it's related to the temple festival 6 days from now. Beard, do you remember the diary from our first instance? Eric Church nodded. Of course. The girl's mother got a phone call, her grandfather said the grandmother was gravely ill and about to die, and wanted her to come home. But the mother firmly refused. And after learning that her grandmother had died, the mother became extremely frightened, as if she were afraid of something coming after her. She even deliberately obtained a piece of blood jade from who knows where to protect the girl. As he spoke, Eric Church suddenly froze and murmured. "Bro, are you saying that the girl's grandmother was the spirit medium Ngwin of this village?" Chris Hemsworth said. "Yes. The girl's mother was the daughter of the spirit medium Ngwin. She must have grown up in this village and definitely knew something. As for the spirit medium Ngwin suddenly falling gravely ill, it was probably not illness at all, but something related to the ghosts in the village. My guess is that, in the timeline after our first Blood Gate, Kai Vu village has spiraled out of control. The ghosts filled with deep resentment are all seeking revenge against the Ngwin clan." Imagining that scene, Eric Church couldn't help shuddering. Damn it. Just what did this Ngwin clan do, to give birth to such terrifying something else? The flayed-skin woman we met at Phuong Thon Hall earlier, when she said she wanted us to bring someone to her, could it be the spirit medium Ngwin? Alice Englert patted Eric Church's shoulder approvingly. "Not bad, Beard. You're getting sharper." Eric Church fell silent. "So what do we do next?" "Go find the spirit medium Ngwin and tie her up, drag her to Phuong Thon Hall." Chris Hemsworth shook his head. "There are many ghosts in this village that want to kill the Ngwin clan, yet they're still living just fine. That means they have some real ability. It won't be easy to deal with them. First, we should deal with the person who planted this wooden tag in our rooms." Both of them knew he was talking about Delphine. What else is there to think about? She messes with us, we mess with her. Tonight, we'll hide all the tags in her room and let her taste what it's like to be watched by ghosts. Eric Church hated evil like poison. The moment Delphine was mentioned, his anger flared again. "But I still don't understand, what does she gain by helping an NPC to harm us? The more of us that die, the fewer people there are to help her find the path to survival. Wouldn't that put her in even greater danger?" In response to Eric Church's question, Alice Englert explained. "There are two very strange hidden rules in the Blood Gate. First, when the death toll in a Blood Gate exceeds 90% of the entrance, the difficulty of the instance drops sharply, and the restrictions placed on ghosts increase. Like what happened earlier at Phuong Thon Hall. If only Chris had been left alive, that flayed-skin ghost wouldn't have been able to act against him so easily. It would have required a triggering condition, and that condition wouldn't be easy to fulfill. Within the Blood Gate, there must be blood. If a capable person finds the path to survival before everyone dies, that path will randomly reduce the number of people it protects. The ghosts in the instance will then randomly select up to 1/10 of the people to kill. And finally, there's the compensation mechanism. If only one person survives and exits the Blood Gate, that person will definitely receive a ghost artifact bestowed by the Blood Gate. That final sentence caused both Chris Hemsworth and Eric Church's expressions to change. With enormous benefits on the line, no matter how insane it is, someone will do it. Alice Englert didn't seem surprised at all. That's why, in instances, people usually form teams with members of the same ghost lodge. 2 or 3 people make a group. You rarely see people from different factions teaming up. As for planting these wooden tags in Delphine's room, that's not impossible. But her door is locked. We'll need a way to open it. At that moment, Eric Church grinned. No need for that much trouble. Just a piece of steel wire will do. Leave the rest to me. The other two looked at him in surprise. You even know how to do that? Sensing their odd gazes, Eric Church coughed lightly. Let me be clear, my master taught me this back in the day. I've never used it for bad things. Besides, this is a society ruled by law. With my skills, I can earn a living just fine. No need to risk doing this kind of thing. The two nodded. They quickly found a piece of steel wire and handed it to Eric Church. He bent it into a strange shape. Then the 3 of them went to Delphine's door. After confirming no one was around, Eric Church worked skillfully. A faint sound came from the lock. The door opened. Chapter 30, Kai Vu Village, Exchange. The room before them looked almost identical to all the others. Chris Hemsworth searched around for a while, then finally decided to slip the wooden tag engraved with the word Nguyen into Delphine's pillow. Just one? Eric Church asked. One is enough, Chris Hemsworth replied calmly. The other side isn't completely careless. Putting in too many would be too easy to notice. Eric Church still looked uneasy. Will she die? Having that object in the room didn't necessarily mean death. Chris Hemsworth himself had survived the first night. According to his description, as long as the ghost appeared at night and one lay still on the bed, without moving, without making any sound, nothing would happen. Don't worry too much, Alice Englert said lazily, her voice carrying a trace of coldness. If she doesn't die tonight, I still have another plan. Her hands slipped into her pockets, killing intent flashing undisguised in her eyes. Towards someone like Delphine, she had never felt even the slightest goodwill, and she would never show mercy. After finishing everything, the three carefully checked that no traces were left behind, then quietly left the room. Afterward, they headed to the dining hall for dinner. With the daytime analysis in mind, Eric Church now looked at the dining hall very differently, his gaze filled with scrutiny. He quickly realized that Chris Hemsworth's judgment had been completely correct. This place wasn't a dining hall at all, it was clearly a guest house. The villagers had deliberately converted the old guest house into a dining hall, while turning an almost unused row of ordinary rooms into the so-called guest house. The intention behind this was hard not to overthink. They carried their trays into the room agreed upon at noon. The atmosphere here was just as silent as before. Fortunately, there were quite a few people this time enter with their trays. Her hand, just about to pick up food, paused noticeably. She lifted her eyelids slightly, glanced at them with mild surprise, then quickly returned to normal. You finally came back. I didn't see you for so long, I thought something had happened to you, she said, pretending to sigh in relief, a smile spreading across her face. But now that they knew what Delphine had done, no matter how they looked at her, that fake smile made them feel sick to their stomachs. Outwardly, she united everyone to search for a way to survive. Behind their backs, she sold them all out. It wasn't anything, Alice Englert replied casually. After checking out the Bat Hack well, we made a detour to Phuong Thon Hall, so it took a bit longer. As soon as she finished speaking, the girls sitting to their left hurriedly said. Now that everyone's here, let's exchange clues. Everyone nodded lightly. Let's start with US. This afternoon, we went to Phuong Deep Bridge. The bespectacled man began recounting what they had encountered at Phuong Deep Bridge. In truth, the so-called clues he described were nothing more than useless symbols. Still, Delphine and the others listened attentively. After he finished, Delphine even praised him perfunctorily, saying the clues were very helpful and that combining them with others might reveal the path to survival. The three in the bespectacled man's group all showed pleased expressions, then collectively turned to look at Chris Hemsworth's group. Right, Chris Hemsworth, did you gain anything this afternoon? What was at Bat Hack Well and Phuong Thon Hall? Facing the question, Chris Hemsworth calmly recounted everything they had experienced that afternoon, but deliberately concealed the truth about the skinned female ghost. He only said that Alice Englert had been lucky to possess a powerful protective ghost artifact, otherwise, all three of them would have died there, like that of a professional narrator. Just from his words alone, everyone could feel how terrifyingly dangerous the situation had been. By the time he finished, they realized their backs were drenched in cold sweat. Delphine, sitting farthest from Chris Hemsworth, had a trace of discomfort flash through her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by cruelty and a cold sneer. Such dogs hit luck. Pity that luck can only save you for a moment, not for a lifetime. Thinking of the thing in the three of their rooms, the corner of Delphine's mouth curled upward. These 7 idiots probably didn't even realize they were being toyed with. By the time they discovered the truth, it would already be too late. With the witch's promise and protection, she would definitely be the final survivor, not only able to complete the Blood Gate mission and leave this place, but also receive a ghost artifact bestowed by the Blood Gate itself. The thought made Delphine so excited that the fingers holding her chopsticks trembled slightly. But she quickly calmed herself, took a deep breath, and said to everyone, "We've already gathered quite a few clues, but there are still some things I need time to think over. Tomorrow morning at breakfast, let's meet here again. By then, I'll organize all the clues for everyone, including Phuong Thon Hall and Phuoc Ngac Tuesday. Everyone's worked hard today. After eating, go rest early. Nights in this village aren't very safe." The others vaguely sensed that something was off. Everyone had shared their clues tonight, yet Delphine, the one who suggested the exchange, had revealed nothing. They might be newcomers, but they weren't stupid. Just as suspicion began to surface, Alice Englert spoke weakly. "Delphine, all of us have shared our clues, but you're still holding back. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? If you can tell us tomorrow morning, why can't you tell us tonight?" The bespectacled man immediately pushed up his glasses and nervously echoed her. "Yeah. If you know something, just say it. Perfect timing, we can all combine the clues tonight and think about where the way out is. 3 minds working together, isn't that better than Zhuge Liang alone?" If Alice Englert's words were the fuse, then the bespectacled man's support lit it. Seeing everyone staring at her, Delphine's expression stiffened noticeably. Under the table, she clenched her fists tightly. Damn Alice Englert. As early as noon today, when she noticed Alice Englert's gaze, she had felt that this woman wasn't easy to deal with, very likely someone who had already passed through several blood gates. Normally, newcomers in a blood gate weren't lacking in intelligence, but under the immense pressure of ghosts, they lacked sufficient vigilance toward other people. The terrifying, high-pressure environment made them easily trust strangers. That was why newcomers were so easy to deceive. Delphine had done this countless times. She had 3 ghost artifacts, all obtained through guiding newcomers in her previous 2 blood gates. But this time, it seemed she had run into real trouble.